Welcome into a brand new Tuesday Scramble. It is, oh my God, March 1st, 2022. I'm Rick Gehman, that right there. Andy Lack. Andy, it's March 1st?
Golf season's flying by. What is it? Masters in like 40 days, something like that?
Less. 37, wow. I think.
Who's counting though?
I am actually. But
did you get any suggestions? I saw you tweeted on like the Mastery by the Masters. Did you get any really good suggestions on that yet?
I got a lot of suggestions. Some of them I would love to do, but it's like I don't know how much, some of them are like a lot of time commitments, but a lot of them. So yeah, what I did is I just opened it up like, hey, life, golf, whatever. Let's see. A lot of diet stuff, a lot of diet and exercise stuff, a lot of meditation and yoga and, writing down your top 5 things to do the next day, read a chapter of a book. It was stuff like that.
Journaling, positive affirmations, stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see here. Meditate. Okay. A push. So this one kind of confused me. So a push-up per day out from the master. So 39 today, 38 tomorrow, 37 the next. Shouldn't it be the opposite? Shouldn't I go 1, then 2, then build up to the Masters and do 39 on the day of the Masters instead of working down?
Yeah, that would make more sense to me. I think you want to peak right once we get the closest to it, and assuming you would be getting better at that skill as the week goes on, so it would be easier for you to add more into it. I would probably go in that direction.
100 push-ups and 100 ounces of water a day. You've got the water covered. I've got the water covered. Just have to do, there it is. That's some beverage, says Benny Levine. Andy's drink has an undertow.
Rick, you'll enjoy this. So this is my first, I got in my profile picture in Twitter, which I haven't changed in since I got on Twitter in 2019, you can see the very top of a water bottle, and somebody made an account, the water bottle in Andy Lack's profile picture. And I have no idea who that person is. It doesn't even seem like a troll account because it just likes and retweets everything I do. And it's just a little image of the tiny cap of the water bottle in my profile picture.
That's a weird account. Yeah, at least troll you, right? At least
I'm so confused by its nature and ethos, but so be it. Who can say?
We are indeed presented by PrizePicks. The code you're looking for over there is Rick, 100% instant deposit up to $100. You no longer have to make picks from each side, so you can stack your unders, you can stack your overs, you can go cross sport. You've got single holes available to you now. We're going to do a whole segment in this show about props, but the holes that are single holes for this week, I think it's 4 and 16, Andy, which are the par. Is it 4 and 16? That are the par.
Oh, yeah.
5s.
Oh yeah, we'll get to them. I got into those. They're fun holes for it.
Yeah, they really are, and I think there are some opportunities. But before we take a peek at the Arnold Palmer Invitational, let's go quickly into the Honda Classic recap. Sepp freaking Straka wins this golf tournament, which I think the way that this played out, Andy, Sunday afternoon, all the groups getting to the bear trap and having no idea who's going to win the golf tournament. That's how that event is supposed to play out.
Do you ever go back, Rick, after a tournament ends and there's a bit of a surprise winner or a winner that you weren't even considering at all, and kind of go back through the stats and say, okay, what did I miss here with this guy? Why wasn't this guy at the top of my mind? And I went back and did that with Straka this week. Nothing. There was literally nothing that I could find that would have ever led me to him. There's probably 115 golfers in the field I probably would have bet before Sepp Straka.
Yeah, which I think is fair. And yes, I do that exercise. And I can't remember who it was, but there was somebody else like that recently where I just threw my hands up and said, no conceivable. Maybe it was Jim Herman. And he missed like 15 cuts in a row and then he won, right? It was just like, how could you have ever gotten here? And it's another reminder that this sport is volatile. They're all very good. The difference between, I talk about this a lot, usually at the end of the season, the difference between guy number 30 on the PGA Tour and guy who loses their card like 155 is like a half a stroke per round. It's pretty outrageous.
And if you listen to Mark Brody talk about strokes gained and how he talks to players, he will literally tell players like, hey, you could move up 10, 15 spots in your strokes gain ranking by gaining like 3 yards off the tee or averaging like 1.25 more fairways every 36 holes. Like the margins are so slim there.
The stat that broke through to Bryson that made him go through the transformation is Mark Brody told him he could be 6 yards more wild off the tee if he gained 3 yards off the tee. And he obviously took that to an extreme, right? He said, oh, well, if I could do 3 and 6, maybe I'll do 6 and 12 or 9 and 18. But that's right. When you start looking at it that way, you realize any level of improvement can skip you over so many of your peers.
Yeah. And again, with a guy like Sepp Straka, like Sepp Straka crushes it. He hits the ball really well. He was first last week at the Honda and off the tee. So we knew he had those ball striking chops. He wasn't hitting the ball well entering this week, although he's done it in the past. And it's a war of attrition at that golf course, right? And I think what Straka was able to do on Sunday was really impressive. Rick, I thought Lowry really had it there. I really did.
I thought he did too. He actually had some, as a Lowry ticket holder, that one was tough because he had a 2-shot lead late on Sunday. He actually used the words, I think that tournament got stolen from me, is actually the quote that he said. And he was referring to the huge rainstorm that just the skies opened and poured down on these guys. And what he was really referring to was the difference between where Sepp Straka was in the fairway on 18 and where he ended up on 18. And I can actually, I'm going to try to share my screen here, Andy. I'm going to try to do this on the fly. We'll see if I can show this here. And maybe if I zoom in a little bit and we do this, but here's Straka in the fairway, 333 yards and 191 in much more benign conditions. It was drizzling. The bad stuff hadn't come down yet. And then Lowry, who I don't know what happened, but he yanked it left. He's 241 yards into the left rough. And now he has 276 into the green. He has to lay up and then try to make a birdie from there. Do you agree with Lowry's sentiment that that was a huge difference in conditions that those two were playing those shots on?
I do, but I wouldn't have said that. And Lowry, I don't know if you noticed this, but he moved really, really quickly on that drive. It seems like he went completely off his pre-shot routine. Did you notice that?
I was yelling at the television. It was also, he did it on 17 as well, because they were finished. I think they were finishing up 17, then they went to 18. It looked to me like he was underneath the umbrella. He sprinted out, hit his golf shot, and sprinted back under. There was a tweet, I don't know who tweeted it, but it was hilarious, that said, it looks like Shane Lowry is going to melt if he gets wet. Like, that's the way he's treating this scenario right now. It was shocking. He lost all of his routine. He got completely screwed up in the moment, and it seemingly led to some poor shots.
And you would think too that he's an Irish guy. He's grown up in Ireland. He knows the conditions well, and maybe more so than the conditions that you would get playing golf in Austria, like Sepp Straka. And I was surprised by that too. I think he moved a lot quicker. And I was listening to a player talk about it after. A player got interviewed after, like, what would you do in that scenario? And the player said, I would wait until they made me hit. I would absolutely wait until they made me hit. And I think
Kitayama tried that.
Yeah. And I think Shane Lowry just really had no idea what to do. And he was a little understandably bitter after. I thought his final quote was funny, where I think the interviewer asked him, do you think this evens out? Like, do you, and he was like, hopefully at Augusta in a couple
He
weeks.
said, hopefully in 5 or 6 weeks. He's trying to speak the golf gods into existence of granting him a green jacket because of the runner-up finish at the Honda Classic, which I love.
Which I thought is great because, and it's like, all right, Shane, some of this is like, this is part of golf. It's the rub of the green, right? Like, I love the idea when some of these guys get thrown for a loop. That's why I always bang the drum for firm and fast conditions, because it's like firm and fast conditions are a player's nightmare because they lose a little bit of their control once the ball hits the ground, and they want to control everything. And with the way that equipment is, they can control almost everything. And so I like when we get thrown for a loop sometimes. I was rooting heavily for Lowry as well, but it is what it is, and happy for Sepp Straka.
More surprising, 1, Sepp Straka winning this golf tournament, or 2, Daniel Berger coughing up a 5-shot lead and finishing 3 back of Straka?
I'm going to say Straka winning. I've always been in the camp, and this is why I always said, like, are we really just going to give Rahm the memorial when he had Cantlay, Scheffler, and freaking Morikawa on his tail? I think this is I mean, Henley blew 5 strokes in 9 holes, right? Like, this idea that somebody who's up 5 is a foregone conclusion, it's just not. It happens a lot. I think it's like 75% of the time, but 1 in every 4 times, which is more than you'd think, whether that player completely crumbles or he just gets caught by a really low round. I think it was a little bit of both in this scenario. I think Berger absolutely did some crumbling. I also think Straka played great. It's going to happen a lot more than I think people think in golf. So I would probably say I'm a little bit less surprised with Berger's collapse than maybe some others.
Yeah, and they're obviously not all equal, but Berger blows 5 shots with 18 to go. Henley blows 5 with 9 to go. Power blows 5 with 36 to go.
Seamus was up 6. With like 40 holes to play. Yeah.
It's not as lock of the century as we might think it is. Here is the optimal from last week. Sepp Straka, Kurt Kitayama, Shane Lowry, Daniel Berger, Gary Woodland, Chris Kirk. It cost $49,300. It scored 539.5 points. So Berger still in your optimal. Chris Kirk, Gary Woodland rounding it out. That was kind of exciting. But any strong feelings, thoughts, or takeaways from what ended up being the best possible lineup you could have put together on DraftKings last week?
Well, the only guy that's in that optimal lineup that 2 of them were Lowry and Kirk. I'm really glad to see Woodland start turning it around. He was a guy that I was really high on at the beginning of the season, and through the first month and a half or so, it wasn't looking good for my Gary Woodland resurgence prediction, but it seemed like this is the first week, like, he gained strokes in all 4 major categories. He hit the ball well. He putted well. His short game was good. So I do think Gary's going to be relevant this year. I think he's going to have a little bit of a nice resurgence. On Straka and Kitayama, I would have got to 100 golfers before I got to them, in full disclosure.
I probably would have as well. That's why sometimes in my custom model, I just ramp up the randomness. I just crank it up to like 40. And I'm like, let's see what kind of crazy lineups this thing pumps out and see what it gets to, because you end up getting guys like Straka and Kitayama that you would not have put in by hand. Also, Andy, I have a one and done update. And for the first time in what seems like forever, it's positive for me. Not only did I not get a 0, but I got more than you. $106,000 from Billy Horschel. Louis Oosthuizen got you $43,000, and that was a roller coaster, Andy, because on Thursday, you probably thought you were getting 0. On Friday, you probably thought you were getting all the money, and it was just all over the place with him all week long.
So after Thursday's round, my guy was up, or your guy was up 8 on my guy, and after Friday's round, my guy was up 2 on your guy. So there was there was a 10-stroke swing in one round, which just speaks to the volatility and the variance of this golf course, which is a theme that we talked about a bunch earlier in the week. But I'm super glad to see you get back on the board. I mean, we'll talk about Billy Horschel a little bit later as well for this week too, but he grinded out there, and you know what, Rick? He did not putt or chip well at all. Like if he could do what he's normally the best at, which is chipping and putting, he would have gotten you a lot more money than that 106,000.
So I now go to 276,000 for the year. You're still very much ahead, 1.9 million. But Andy, this week, 2.1 to the winner, and next week, 3.6. So we've got a combined $32 million in purses between this week and next. A lot of cash out there.
Yeah, I am. The players is a massive domino. Like and what's so tricky about that one too, I distinctly remember from last year, the players, I just whiffed, like really, really whiffed. And it's a tough tournament. So there's going to be a ton of one and done movement on the leaderboards in these next couple of weeks.
There will be one or two top five players next week who miss the cut. And just like blow everybody's one and done, blow everybody's lineups. It's Florida golf with water on every single hole and all that good stuff.
Oh yeah. I think last year I bet like Webb and Finau, both of them missed the cut. Like the players is really fun. This course is really fun too. I think we'll see a lot of variance here as well. I remember in the past watching this tournament, like guys can post, right? Guys can post and watch people come back to them. I think Molinari won 2 or 3 years ago, and he finished his round like an hour and a half before the leaders, and everyone just kept falling back, and suddenly Molinari wins.
That's how Garrick Higgo won at Palmetto, right? It's just like, oh, everybody melts down around me. Okay, well, let's talk about this week. Let's get into the Arnold Palmer Invitational. We have to talk about the course. We've got to talk about props. We're going to do matchups. We're going to do one and get done. We'll answer your questions in the chat. If you want, throw them in the chat right now. But first, we're going to take 30 seconds, and we'll see you on the other side.
Remember, Andy Lack is not only the co-host of The Scramble, but also produces his own show, the Inside Golf Podcast. It's available twice a week, focusing on course breakdowns, DFS, and betting strategies for every PGA Tour event. Admittedly, I was drawn to Andy for his data-driven approach, which you'll find on his Sunday shows as he breaks down the field, but I'm even more impressed by his passion for course architecture, which offers a different perspective of our great game. Mix those two together with insightful and humorous guests who don't take themselves too seriously, and you've got a recipe for a great podcast. Follow Inside Golf on Twitter and download Inside Golf wherever you download podcasts.
That is such a loud ad, Andy.
I know.
Oh my God. I got to turn down the volume on that one. It probably helps. It gets people's attention. They're like, oh, I'm going to go download the Inside Golf Podcast, but my God, it blows my eardrums out. I'm gonna have to turn that one down, I think.
Yeah, you can definitely edit that. I really appreciate it though, Rick, because I've been very, very pleased with the amount of new listeners that I've got this season. And I credit a lot of that to the Scramble.
Well, listen, hey, you deserve it. You do great stuff. And one of the things that I love to get your opinion on is the golf course, right? It's every single week, a different course, different situations, almost always in a different region of the country. So there's just a lot going on. And you do a very good job of sifting through all that and telling me what's important. So have at it, Andy. The stage is yours. Bay Hill is a place that we've seen year in and year out. And what type of golf should we be expecting this course to present itself to this week?
So I'm going to give you something that I don't think enough people are talking about, and that's that Bay Hill hired a new superintendent in 2019, a guy by the name of Chris Flynn. And Chris Flynn changed the golf course a lot. I mean, he shaved off a lot of areas, he widened the fairways a little bit, and he let the rough grow out as well. So that you've seen in the last 3 years, the winning score has been like -11, -12, -4. And it's just a little bit of a different golf course now.
I'm glad you brought that up. I'm going to look this up here. I don't have it handy, but I'm going to pull up. I have like the year by year stats for Bay Hill. What year did you say he got hired?
2019.
Okay. That's like exactly when you start to see the shift in a lot of these stats. So I'm going to pull that up in just a second. But when you start talking about thick rough, you generally hear the Bryson DeChambeau conversation. He's not in the field to defend his crown this time around, or that red cardigan. But is that the profile of golfer, or with kind of the shaved areas? Are we looking around the green? Like, what types of players do we think find success?
So I basically narrowed it down to one thing that I found that was really interesting was I looked at what the winners had done and the profile of the winners and how they got there. And one thing that I noticed was every single year, the winner was either an absolute bomber and top 3 or 4 in driving distance and par five scoring and just absolutely eating on those par fives, or they were first in proximity to the hole and approach, or it was scrambling and they were literally first in scrambling. And so, in my opinion, you need to be elite at one of those 3 specific things. You either need to be the type of player a la your Jason Day, a la your Rory McIlroy, a la your Bryson, even guys like Keith Mitchell and Kokrak that have played well here before, that their driver is a weapon and they can absolutely just take advantage of these par fives where you absolutely need to score. Or the reason why guys like Corey Connors and Keegan Bradley have also played well here, as well as these greens are rock hard, right, Rick? So you need to have a very high ball flight when approaching these greens. And a lot of the shots on this course are coming from 200 yards plus. And then there's that third way of doing it, which Fitzpatrick has done, Bezadenhout has done, Spieth has done a little bit, Patrick Reed has done a little bit, where the conditions are a little bit harder, it's a little bit windier, every single person's missing these greens, and you just have to be incredible with chipping around these shaved areas and thick rough. So I think any 3 of those things can get it done this week.
Okay, so homeboy gets hired in 2019. What's his name?
Chris Flynn.
Chris Flynn gets hired in 2019 because you start to see some big changes in the stats in 2020. So let me just, we'll do the basic ones here. So driving accuracy from 2016 moving forward, driving accuracy, this was 44th on tour. That's very easy to hit fairways. Then it went to 37th, 39th, 26th. Chris Flynn gets hired. Now it's the 10th most difficult fairway to hit in 2020. It's the 13th most difficult to hit last year. Greens in regulation, 14th, 7th, 17th, 5th. He gets hired. Hardest greens to hit in 2020, 5th hardest to hit in 2021. Birdie average goes from 28th on tour to 15th to 21st to 2nd and 11th. This course just got a lot harder in the last couple of years.
And that's what I've been preaching and saying, like, hey, just be a little careful when you're looking at Rory McIlroy winning at 19 under par here in 2017, or Matt Every winning at 19 under par here in 2013 or whatever it was. It's just a little bit of a different golf course right now. So yeah, I think this is the type of stuff that I think really matters and I think doesn't get talked about enough.
I have a lot of thought. Okay, so that data is from the RickRunGood database, but I don't have it on the website yet, but I'll have that on the website soon so that we can kind of see trends and courses and stuff like that. Okay, so are you surprised, real quick, and we'll get into the props, we'll get into the matchups and all that stuff, but Bryson's not playing, which to me, when a defending champion is not around to defend his crown, it's kind of a big deal. And there is some speculation that this wrist injury is worse than he is leading on at the moment.
Yeah. Do you think he plays the Players, Rick?
I listen, Bryson is a guy that I don't think he's necessarily normal like everybody else. He can make you look very stupid very quickly. I'm going to say no, right? I mean, he knew on Monday he wasn't playing the Arnold Palmer Invitational, which at least we've seen guys like Daniel Berger and guys recently, well, they'll play some practice rounds. They'll try it out and then say, I can't pull it off. That means to me, that says he wasn't close to playing this week. So do I feel like an extra 7 days, if you're not close and he's been dealing with this for a couple of months, couple of weeks, my gut says no. I hope I'm wrong because I want to see him play the Players Championship and all that stuff. But I honestly think the Masters is the next checkpoint.
My gut says no too. I think the Masters is the next checkpoint, and we've seen this a couple of times before where, like Daniel Berger, he withdraws from AT&T Pebble Beach as the defending champion. He says it's precautionary. He plays a week or 2 weeks later at Phoenix, and then 2 or 3 weeks later, he almost wins the next tournament he plays in. It's difficult with golf, Rick, where we don't get the type of reporting often in injuries that we do in, say, football. Like this entire information that we are getting from Bryson is coming from Bryson. Like it's not, it's coming from a very biased source. It's it's not coming from somebody else reporting it. So I'm very curious. I'm curious to see how serious it is. Who do you think has a more likely chance to play the Masters, Bryson or Phil?
Oh God. Two completely different reasons. I think Phil will definitely play the Masters. So I will say Phil is more likely, but that's a pretty good question. It's probably close.
I think it's close too. I think I'd probably lean Bryson. And just to answer the question in the chat, Justin, he did not play in the Seminole golf tournament. Did you see those tee times by any chance, Rick? Like
we
Louis
could spend
and
an
Brady?
entire show on the pairings at this. I mean, first of all, the amount of PGA Tour high-level golfers and athletes and celebrities and whatever that, oh my God, we could spend 3 hours talking about that tee sheet.
Oh, it's so funny. It's the you know what another good one is? The member guest at Michael Jordan's new course. Have you heard his new course, The Grove?
Yeah, The Grove 23, right? It's outrageous, the list of people on that.
No, it is so funny. And I guess it makes sense with all these guys living here. I wish they should televise that. I'd watch it.
I would pay to watch it.
Yeah.
Right? Like
Brady
pay-per-view me into that.
Yeah. No, I would 100% watch it. But they did that first match when we were coming back from the COVID break at Seminole. If you remember, it was like DJ, Rory, Wolf, and Ricky.
It was the tailor-made driving relief is what
Correct. And I don't know if you watched, did you get a chance, last thing, and then we'll move on to the props. Did you get a chance to watch the Walker Cup at all, Rick? Because the Walker Cup was at Seminole. It is an awesome golf course on television.
When was it? It wasn't recent, was it? Because
it was a while ago. I think it was a couple, at least 6 months or close to a year.
Yeah. Then I think I did see it, but I don't remember much of it now.
Yeah. No, Seminole's the awesome track for TV.
Okay. We're going to do props. We're going to do matchups. We're going to do one and done. We'll answer a couple of these questions from the chat because I think there's good ones. If you have some, dump them in right now. But we're going to go to an ad that is hopefully a bit more appropriately volume leveled. Let's try. All of the tools and data that you see me use on this channel is from my site, RickRunGood.com. RickRunGood.com is one of the largest golf databases on the planet, and it's geared towards making your DFS and betting research process as efficient as possible. There are literally millions of data points in the database, and while that might sound intimidating, the tools that I've built allow you to cut through the data quickly, choose what's important to use, and even build lineups that are ready for import directly into DraftKings. Outside of that, membership gets you access to the Slack channel, currently 2,000 run gooders who are ready to share insights and have a little fun. I love it, and you will too. Sign up at RickRunGood.com. Props. Prize picks. Props are here. Andy, we were 7-2 on these last week.
Yeah. I'd tell everybody there is a real opportunity with Prize Picks, and especially now that they're starting to do the hole by hole ones. Promo code Rick. I would encourage everyone to sign up, and it's part of my favorite part of the show every week.
I actually think that their golf lines are pretty soft. You can find some edges, and I think the assumption is like, hey, listen, golf lines are going to be hard, but like people keep playing and keep doing props, like they're probably very efficient in a lot of other sports, and like we can just pile up cash on golf because that's all I really care about. But yeah, we've been very good at these, and I think there's a big opportunity this week.
And we've also been known to be Prize Picks market movers as well. So I would encourage everyone to get those in quickly during the show.
Okay, so link in the description, promo code Rick, all that good stuff. One other thing that I did is I updated the tool on my website. This is a free tool where basically it's right here. It's on RickRunGood.com. You can go through, you can change the number of rounds. You can click through fairways, greens, and score. I changed the way it looked because the previous tool was too heavy, but then I added in hole by hole score as well. So I've loaded in every hole played by the eligible golfers at Bay Hill, Andy. So when we get to some of these hole-by-hole props, we'll be able to see historically how they've played it, which we talked about a little bit before. For the single hole stuff, a lot of it is pin position, a lot of it is wind, and a lot of it is how it fits the golfer's eye.
Yeah, and you can basically look at like birdie percentage and scoring average for a specific player. Like a lot of it, Rick, again, like it's a math equation in a lot of ways, and you can continue to just use the math and all of the data that we have at our disposal to kind of help you solve these problems.
All right, Andy, kick us off here with your first prop. These are all round one props because that's how it works. Where are you headed first?
So the first one I want to talk about is I went with your guy, Billy Horschel, under 71.5. Now, one thing that I talk about a lot is most courses, if you actually look at this over a long-term data sample size, most courses tend to get harder as the week goes on because they firm up. So I know that Bay Hill is one of the most difficult courses that we see on season, but I think there's a high likelihood that it plays a little bit easier in the first rounds. And you look at a guy like Horschel gained over 9 strokes ball striking last week. That was his best ball striking performance in 3.5 years. And he's made 8 of 9 cuts here. He always plays well at this course, and he's coming in with awesome form. Something just really seems to be clicking with him this week. So I bet Billy Horschel at 55-1. I'm definitely going to be using him in DraftKings. I was just really enamored with the way that he hit the ball last week, and I trust that putter is going to come around. So I think he can shoot 1 under par in round 1.
I also have an under 71.5 for round 1, and it's Will Zalatoris. This, to me, when I was just looking through the lines, I was like, wow, 71.5, that's the highest number that they have available for the eligible golfers. And I'm like, Sam Burns, man, he struggled. Sung Ji Im, he's coming off a miscut. What? Will Zalatoris, what's he doing on this list, right? And I just thought, okay, if this is a course that, historically the regression model would show approach play is going to be key. I obviously worry about some of the shorter putts that he can make. I just thought he was being lumped, Andy, with guys that he is probably in a different class than.
Long iron play too, Rick. Like Will Zalatoris, you want to play him on longer courses, more difficult courses with thick rough. That's why he's always going to be good at Torrey Pines and always going to be good at courses like this. And it's also the reason why he's popped up at major championships. I love Will Zalatoris in harder conditions and more difficult golf courses. A little bit more on him later from me.
A little bit more on him later. Okay, that moves us right along here. Andy, we both have a single hole prop as our next prop entry here. Where are you going?
So I went with Kevin Kisner over 4.5 on hole 4. And no shots to Kevin Kisner, but I always find with the players that they give us in PrizePicks, we talk about Matt. It's often Matt Kuchar. I guess Matt Kuchar isn't playing this week, so Kevin Kisner is Matt
Kuchar. Yeah,
Kevin Kisner feels like his stand-in, but you kind of look at it just at a bird's eye view and say, I don't know if Kevin Kisner's name fits with the Fitzpatricks and the Zalatorises and the Roms and all those guys. So I dug a little bit into Kevin Kisner, and Kevin Kisner is nearly dead last in this entire field over a pretty large sample size in par 5 scoring. For whatever reason, whether it's his driver or the long iron play, he's just not the best at taking advantage of par 5s. And I look at number 4, which is a 590-yard par 5, which plays to a scoring average of 4.8. And I'm getting one of the worst par 5 players in this field. And the score on this hole is already 4.8. Like, it's just, that's an easy one. It's math.
What is also math is if you look at Kevin Kisner's history at the 4th hole at Bay Hill, which is what I'm showing you right now. The last 4 years, he's played it 12 times, Andy. He's made par 9 of them. He's made birdie in 3. That's over 75% of the time he has played that hole.
Yeah, that's what you have to be looking at here. It is very easy to just simplify this, take all bias out of it and say, okay, this is a numbers play. And you and I both have had a lot of success doing that so far with PrizePicks.
The Single hole prop that I'm taking is Matt Fitzpatrick, who I just love this week. And I'm sure we're going to talk about him more in just a bit. Under 4.5 on hole 16. So again, I went back to the tool. Here it is. Matt Fitzpatrick, who I think sets up well for this course anyway, has played this 16th hole 22 times. He has gone under. He has made birdie in 17 of them. That is 77% of the time. He just crushes it. The whole plays significantly under par. I think Matt Fitzpatrick is great for this week. Fire me up some under 4.5 on Matty Fitzpatty.
I love Fitzpatrick this week too. Are we worried at all about the withdrawal from Riviera?
Well, from what I understand, it was just a stomach bug.
Non-COVID. Yeah.
Yeah, just a stomach bug. And he thought, I think he thought long and hard about playing, and he just said, you know what, I'll just skip. I'm not concerned about any lasting effects. That was 2 weeks ago now at this point.
Okay. Yeah, me neither. He has never finished worse than, I think, 11th at this course. And you look at other very, very difficult golf courses with very firm greens, susceptible to the wind and thick rough. The two that I was able to identify was the year that Memorial played very difficult and Jon Rahm won, and the year that we went to Olympia Fields and also Jon Rahm won, by the way.
Oh boy.
Matthew Fitzpatrick, only other player outside of Jon Rahm to finish top 10 in both of those tournaments in extremely difficult scoring conditions.
I love that. Okay, how about we rock and roll to our head-to-head matchups? And the way that we will do that is via this quick break. But wait, don't press it yet, Mina. The code you're looking for on PrizePicks is Rick, 100% instant deposit up to $100. They've got cross sports stuff. They're killing it. Single holes. Can't wait. So we'll see you on the other side. If you're not playing daily fantasy on PrizePicks, then you're not really playing daily fantasy. They offer nothing but props, and they do it better than anyone else. You pick 2 to 5 players on an over-under and can win up to 10 times on any entry. They allow mixed sport entries, meaning you can take the over on LeBron James and the under on Jon Rahm. The golf-specific props are amazing. Birdies or better, fairways hit, greens in regulation, round score, and now, yes, single hole props. That's right. What score will a golfer make on a specific hole? I have PrizePicks specific tools on my website to help you build the best entries, and now PrizePicks is offering a 100% instant deposit match up to $100. Just use the code RICK at sign up or click the link in the description. That's code RICK. Good luck. All right, Andy, I've got 2 questions I want to hit real quick before we get into our matchups. Rob asks, is the best way to bet Rahm just parlay him with longer every week? Also, who is the Scott of the week? I'm just going to rearrange that question, Andy. What is the best way to deploy Jon Rahm? Because you can bet him in a very short outright market, one that he has not cashed in some time. I guess you could deploy him in matchups or for fantasy purpose. Like, what is the best way to invest in Jon Rahm?
So DraftKings, probably, because you look at the matchups and he's a minus 160 favorite over Rory McIlroy. He's a minus 185 favorite over Victor Hovland. But I will say this in DraftKings, I think he will go slightly under-owned in DraftKings this week. Now, under-owned for Jon Rahm is 20%, not 30%, right? But the fact that he's never played this course before and he's coming off a quote unquote disappointing 21st place finish at Riviera, I think you will get a bit of an ownership break on him in DraftKings. So that will be how I will be getting my Jon Rahm exposure, because he's unbettable as an outright, and I don't really see how you can lay minus 180 with him in matchups either.
Yeah, I've been avoiding betting him at the top of the board, and it has not burned us yet. I imagine that will come to an end shortly, but God, if he wins, he's going to be 5-1. You're never going to be able to bet Jon Rahm outrights until, I don't know, somebody else takes over the world number 1 spot.
Well, let me ask you a question. What if he misses the cut this week, which I don't think he will? What's his number at the Players?
10.
Yeah, sounds about right. I think I'd agree with you.
They're just not going to get burned on Jon Rahm. Even if you inject the 100 best players in the world off a miscut, I just don't think you're going to get a good number on him.
I think Cantlay and Hovland and Rory have caught up a little bit in terms of general respect on the odds market, but I don't think like even those guys being in the 12 to 18 range, they're still in this mini tier below him that he kind of operates on his own. So I agree. Even if he like, I don't see, unless he goes on a really bad string, I don't see him ever going above 10 or 11 in any tournament this year.
Tend to agree. Matchups. Now, we had another winning week last week as well. Both of us were 3-1-1. I clawed back to 500 for the year, 12-12-1. Andy, you are 17-7-1, and you have been very clear. If there's a way to make money betting golf, this is the way to do it. And even last week, which was, some weeks are just super volatile. You're one or two swings away, as you mentioned with the Louis Oosthuizen and Billy Horschel comparison earlier in the week. Like, you're one or two swings away from this getting blown up, but for the most part, matchups are your safest bet.
Yeah, and we're in a tricky position, right, Rick, because we both do content. And I think most people, one of the things that I learned very early on was people want to hear about outrights. Those are the sexy ones. Those are the big payouts. But like I've said to you before, you talk to any of like the professional golf gamblers in Vegas, this is what they're doing, right? This is what they are doing to build a consistent bankroll time after time. So I continue to bang the drum for matchups, and I can't wait to get in some more with you this week.
All right, well, let's do it. Matty Fitzpatty is our first matchup. He's going up against Sungjae Im. Sungjae was not only the favorite last week, but he also missed the cut. Now he's also played well at the Arnold Palmer Invitational, as has Fitzpatrick. This is a pretty fascinating one. What side would you like?
I love Fitzpatrick this week, like you said. I also like Sungjae a lot too. So this was a tough one. Shout out producer Mina if she picked these. I had to pause on a couple of them. I like both sides on a lot of these matchups. So I'm gonna go with Fitzpatrick, but I like Sungjae this week too.
I agree that Sungjae, I'm like a 7 out of 10. Fitzpatrick, I'm like an 8 or 8.5 out of 10. I mean, Fitzpatrick, just however you want to shake it, he's great off the tee. He's played well here. You mentioned the tough conditions. Even if you look at strength of field, which is not necessarily indicative of a hard golf course, but he plays well in hard, kind of deep, stronger fields. So for me, I think Fitzpatrick is in for a great week. I will also take his side in this matchup. Next up, Max Homa versus Maverick McNeely. This one was hard. I think we're getting to the point, Andy, where McNeely is not just in the class of Safeway Opens and Fortinet Championships and just like these one-off weak field events. I guess those are actually the same event now. Weak field events. I think we're seeing true sustainable growth in the game from McNeely. As much as I like Max Homa, he's a bit more of a popper to me. I'm excited about what the next 12 months looks like for Mav.
Oh, yeah. McNeely's really good. I ended up giving the slight edge to Homa because I liked his history on harder, more classical golf courses in really good fields a little bit more than Mav. I like the fact that he's won at Quail Hollow on a hard golf course in a difficult field. I like the fact that he's won at Riviera on a hard golf course in a difficult field. So I gave the slight edge to Homa here. But again, I think both of those guys are going to play well this week.
All right, so there will be blood on that one. Andy's taking Max Homa. I'm taking Maverick McNeely. A couple of young guns in our next matchup from producer Mina. Scotty Scheffler versus Victor Hovland. Okay, let's make the case. What side do you want here, Andy?
I knew you were going to go Hovland, and so I wanted to differentiate a little bit here. I love both of these guys just in general as golfers, but I love both of them this week as well. I give the slight edge to Scheffler. I guess Scheffler Hovland hasn't really played that well on this course. And what's your panic level on Hovland's short game? Because like it seems eye test wise, like closing out tournaments at the Mayakoba and stuff like that, and the Hero, that his short game has gotten better, but statistically it's still very, very bad.
So the way that I see it, and I think he'll be the first to tell you this, I think what the plan is for right now is to get him a one go-to shot around the green, Andy. And it is a mid-flight, mid-height pitch that when it lands, it rolls out. And if he gets really good at that, he's got something to fall back on. I think when you get to places where you need to have all of the shots, I get a little bit more worried. Like, think about all of the shots Jordan Spieth has in his bag. And it's not fair to compare anybody around the green to those two guys. It's not fair, but they've got all the shots. And I think when you get Victor, who's getting a lot better at that one really go-to shot, and you put him on a flat, resort style course where that plays very well, I think he's going to eat him up. I think he's just going to eat him up. And I think he'll learn as he continues to grow, only 2.5 years in, to hit more and more shots around the green. We're going to see improvements all the time, but I think that's where the current state of his short game is.
I would agree. And I think I give the slight edge to Scheffler because I trust him chipping out of really thick rough onto firm greens just a little bit more than Hovland. But I mean, both of these guys are hitting it so well right now.
Yeah, I went with Victor. The one thing that I was a little bit worried about with Scotty is the driver can get a little bit loose. And also, I don't love to play the buckets game, but there are like twice the tour average of shots that are hit from 200 to 225 and basically from 200 out. And that has not been, I think Scotty's ranked outside the top 100 kind of when you look at some of those shots. So we'll see. But I'll take the Victor side of it, but I could have been swayed either way there. Jason Kokrak versus Christian Bezuidenhout. We're both on the same side, Andy. It's Jason Kokrak. He's low-key been awesome at Bay Hill, right? At least the last 8 years, he's just been phenomenal.
Yeah, Kokrak fits that first category that we talked about guys that just absolutely bomb it off the tee and their driver is a weapon, like Day and McIlroy and Keith Mitchell to a certain extent too. I think Kokrak's path to success at Bay Hill is a lot simpler than Bezuidenhout's path to success at Bay Hill, despite the fact that both of them have gotten the success. So I'm going to go with Kokrak here.
Kokrak for both of us in that one, which leaves us our final matchup here. Will Zalatoris versus Paul Casey. I think I made a mistake. I'm going to go with Casey. I think the reason I got there is I think that he's been better than people want to give him credit for. Played well at Riviera. His European Tour stuff to start the year was fine. He's been good at Bay Hill, but I'm enamored with the upside of Zalatoris, which I think I might have screwed this one up.
I'm all in on Will Z this week. We'll get to him again a little bit later as our final segment, but I am so enamored with the way he's hitting it right now. I love the course fit so much. I think it's happening very, very soon. So I am high on Zalatoris in all markets this week.
Yeah, I'm worried about that one. That one I'm very worried about. And if I'm worried about it on Tuesday morning, it's generally not a good thing. So just to recap, Andy and I are both taking Fitzpatrick over Sungjae Im. I'm taking McNeely. He's taking Homa. He's taking Scheffler. I'm taking Victor. We're both on Kokrak over Bezuidenhout. I'll take Paul Casey. Andy will take Will Zalatoris. And Andy, that leaves us with one final thing to do. It's our one and done selections. Now, because I won last week, do I get to go first? Or because you're still leading the whole thing, you get to go first?
Okay, that distinction's up to you. I would assume that who's ever in the lead probably should go first, but if you want to lead us off, it's totally up to you.
No. I defer to you, Mr. 1.9 million. Where are you going?
Zalatoris. I think this is such a good spot for him. I feel good about my player management so far. Like, I feel good about the way that I'm deploying certain skill sets and certain levels of players at different courses. And Zalatoris fits really well with, this is a guy that I feel very comfortable burning now, because we're going to get to a lot of, am I going to want to burn Zalatoris at a major? Probably not. And am I going to want to burn Zalatoris at a birdie fest where I don't think his skills are accentuated as much? Probably not either. So I think this is a pretty perfect spot for Zalatoris. I'm all in on him this week. By the way, I have a running list of everyone that I've picked so we don't get duped. I didn't record your picks though.
Okay,
which is
I've been meaning to go back and pull those because we're about to run into the time of year where this is going to be an issue. I'm assuming I have not used Rory McIlroy yet, which is who I'm using this week. So. Okay, I don't know where I would have used him at. So I'm going with Rory, and I want to. I have not sent out my email newsletter this week. I'm hoping to have it out here this morning. So if you go into the link in the description, you can find that. He has been historically good at Bay Hill. And it kind of gets lost, Andy, because Rory's very good everywhere, right? So it kind of gets lost when he's really, really good out at one place. But basically, he's gaining 2.4 strokes per round over 28 rounds at Bay Hill. Since 2008, there are only 9 instances of a golfer playing that many rounds, gaining that many strokes. So it's like elite long-term, or not long-term, but enough rounds of course history. Do you want to take a stab at who any of the other course and player combinations are? And I'll give you cover here. I did this on the first cut yesterday, and they didn't get any of them. So,
Webb at the Wyndham,
not enough strokes gained.
Is it total or per round?
Per round, but you have to have at least 28 rounds. So you've got to play it at least like.
Okay, because I was going to say Fitzpatrick and Sungjae have both never finished worse than like 11th here, but they've only played 3 times.
Right.
So I need to go back in time a little bit more.
Yeah. So this dates back to 2008. So you've got to get like a 7 or 8 year stretch of really good golf at one course from a player.
I mean, outside of Tiger everywhere, I would think maybe Bubba at the Travelers or Bubba at Riviera.
No. Neither
DJ at Riviera?
Okay, DJ's on the list, but it's not Riviera.
Oh my gosh. Where else would DJ?
This one's kind of low-key tough.
I don't know. I'm stumped.
Pebble Beach.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, that makes sense. Spieth at, do we have Master stuff in here? Because I know Masters, they don't do strokes gained.
Well, but we can get the strokes gained total. So yes, the answer is yes. Jordan Spieth 2.44 in 32 rounds at Augusta National. Yep, that's one of them.
Okay, I like that one. Yeah, and then, I would assume Bubba's close at he misses the cut at Augusta. There's only sometimes too.
That's the thing. So here's the list. Spieth is on it 3 times. He's on it for Augusta, he's on it for Pebble Beach, and he's on it for Colonial. DJ is on it for Pebble. Rory is on it 3 times. Bay Hill, Quail Hollow, and Sheishen, which is the WGC HSBC.
Sure. Yeah.
Then that leaves us with Rahm at Torrey Pines.
Yeah. Obvious. Yeah, it's an obvious one.
And the one that does not fit with the others is Charlie Hoffman at TPC San Antonio.
Oh my gosh. That was kind of a layup too. The Charlie Hoffman.
Yeah, but it's hard on on the spot to be like, oh yeah, like everyone, like I would have been like, oh yeah, Tiger or yeah, Bubba, but it's like, yeah, it's the big boys. It's the big boys who make the list.
That's interesting. Funny stuff.
Any final thoughts, Andy, before we get out of here?
I don't think so, man. Super excited for this week. I think this is a great tournament. I love watching players struggle, and I do think that they will struggle this week on this golf course. So excited to get started, and we'll chat again soon on Friday.
Absolutely. Back on Friday for that Scramble, 12 p.m. Eastern Time, Rick Run Good YouTube channel. We'll do it all with props and news and an update, live looking at the Arnold Palmer Invitational. You can follow Andy at ADP Lack Sports on Twitter, and you can find me at Rick Run Good. This has been your Tuesday Scramble. See ya.